At a small countryside train station, a girl stands on the platform, trying to hold back her sadness. She is there to send off her boyfriend, who is leaving for Tokyo to start his new life as a college student. Her name is Sachi, and she does not ask for much. All she wants is for him to reply to the letters she plans to send. Even though they both have phones, Sachi believes something handwritten feels more real. For her, a letter on paper is proof of love. Her boyfriend, a young man named Kyosuke, agrees to her request and promises that he will stay faithful to her. At first, Kyosuke's days in Tokyo pass like any other college student's life. He studies, goes to class, and tries to focus on his future, although the distance from Sachi sometimes makes him feel lonely. For a while, everything seems normal. Then, after about a year, things begin to change. This is Dear Sachan. One day, on his way back to his boarding room, Kyosuke happens to see a bra flying through the air and landing right in front of him. When he looks up, he notices a balcony with laundry hanging outside and assumes the underwear must have been blown off by the wind. Since the room is right next to his, Kyosuke decides to return it to whoever lives there. He rings the doorbell, not expecting anything unusual, and is surprised when a beautiful adult woman opens the door wearing only revealing clothes. This woman is Shino, his new neighbor, who has just moved in. She is happy to meet such a polite and helpful neighbor like Kyosuke. From that day on, Shino often stops by his room just to chat. Through their conversations, she learns that Kyosuke is still a virgin and very loyal to his girlfriend, who lives far away, and that they still communicate through letters. Shino casually points out that if Kyosuke ever wants to experience what he has never received from his girlfriend, she is willing to help him. From her tone, Kyosuke thinks she is only joking. Even so, he cannot deny that there is some truth in what she says. Back in school, he once tried to be intimate with Sachi, but she rejected him immediately. She was frightened by how he seemed driven only by desire, as if he had forgotten the sincerity of their love. Kyosuke regretted that moment and has been trying to make up for it ever since by granting whatever Sachi wishes. Every time he receives a letter from her, he always sends a reply. One night, as Kyosuke comes home to his apartment, he happens to see Shino outside, passionately kissing a man. Later, he is introduced to the man and finds out that he is Shino's husband, who rarely comes home because of constant business trips. Shino herself does not seem interested in talking about her family. Instead, she is more curious about whether Kyosuke truly loves his girlfriend. In her view, just because a relationship has a clear status does not mean the people in it truly love each other. Distance, she says, will reveal how serious someone is about their feelings. Her words stay in Kyosuke's mind, even though he does not fully understand what she means. Then, unexpectedly, Shino invites him into her room, suggesting that if he comes inside, he might finally understand what he really feels. Driven by a mix of curiosity and desire, Kyosuke gives in and enters her room. He finds himself unable to resist the temptation of this married woman. As the two of them begin an affair, they are unaware that Shino's husband has already installed a listening device in the room. From somewhere else, he records and hears everything that is happening, loud and clear. The next morning, Kyosuke still cannot stop thinking about Shino. Curiosity mixes with desire, pulling him back to her room once again. Shino welcomes him the way she always does, with the quiet loneliness of someone who has been alone for too long. They fall into the same pattern, sharing moments of intimacy, while the small voice in Kyosuke's heart keeps apologizing to Sachi for breaking the promise he once made. Meanwhile, far away, Sachi tells her two best friends about her relationship. She explains that she and Kyosuke have been together for about 5 years, ever since they were in middle school. Even though Kyosuke has been replying to her letters less often lately, she still chooses to trust his promise that he would never cheat on her. Back in Tokyo, Kyosuke finally gathers the courage to ask Shino why she chose to live in a small rented room when she already had a house with her husband. Shino explains that the house feels too big and that she is often left there alone. With no children and a husband who is always away for work, she feels more like a ghost in her own home. When she told him she wanted to move into an apartment, he did nothing to stop her, which only convinced her that he no longer cared. In this tiny space, Shino feels strangely comfortable. She has found someone young and naive like Kyosuke, someone who fills the emptiness she carries even if there is no love between them. They communicate through a secret signal by tapping on the wall. Sometimes they meet in her room, sometimes in his. And while all of this happens, Sachi keeps sending letters that never receive a reply. She refuses to give up. Every message she sends carries hope that this time, Kyosuke will finally write back. Eventually, Sachi cannot hold back her longing any longer. She decides to travel to Tokyo by herself to surprise him. But the city overwhelms her, and she gets lost while trying to read the map on her phone. That is when someone approaches her to help. To her shock, it is Shino. Not long after, Kyosuke returns from class and is stunned to find Sachi standing in front of his door, with Shino beside her. He tries his best to hide his panic, silently praying that nothing will give away the truth. But while Kyosuke is in the shower, Sachi wanders around the room and finds a condom lying on his bed. Her mind starts racing. She remembers the time she refused him back in school, and wonders if that rejection drove him towards someone else. Afraid of losing him, she becomes overwhelmed by guilt and insecurity. She starts to undress, willing to give up her boundaries if it means keeping Kyosuke by her side. Kyosuke quickly reassures her that she misunderstood. The condom, he explains, is not his. It belongs to a friend who left it there as a joke. Confused but wanting to believe him, Sachi tries to accept the explanation, unaware of the painful truth still hidden behind the wall next door. The next day, Kyosuke takes Sachi around the city, hoping to create good memories before she returns home. He stays close to her, showing care whenever he can. But on their second night, after Sachi falls asleep, Kyosuke hears a familiar tapping sound from the room next door. Unable to resist, he slips out quietly and heads to Shino's room, where she is already waiting for him. Even though he knows he loves Sachi, the pull of Shino's presence keeps drawing him back. Once again, everything is recorded by the hidden camera her husband installed. And when it is over, Kyosuke returns to his room, where Sachi sleeps peacefully, unaware of what just happened. The following day, Kyosuke walks Sachi to the train station so she can return to her hometown. If she did not have classes, she would have stayed with him longer. They part with warm feelings, and Sachi heads home believing their relationship is safe. But soon after, she starts having nightmares about something terrible happening between her and Kyosuke. Meanwhile, Kyosuke's health suddenly declines. He catches a severe flu, forcing him to miss classes. Shino steps in to take care of him while he is burning with fever. Their time together does not stay secret for long. Misuzu, Kyosuke's classmate who comes to visit, sees them and immediately understands what is going on. Misuzu went to the same school as Kyosuke and Sachi, so the disappointment hits hard. She notices a kiss mark on Kyosuke's neck, undeniable proof that he is seeing someone else. Kyosuke does not deny it, but before he can say anything more, his weakened body gives out. He collapses and tumbles down the stairs. Kyosuke is rushed to the hospital, and fortunately his life is saved. When he wakes up, Sachi is already at his bedside. Misuzu informed her of the accident, and Sachi came as fast as she could. The worry on her face says everything about how much she cares. While Sachi leaves the room to pick up his belongings from the apartment, she asks Misuzu to stay with him. Misuzu, still unable to accept what he has done to Sachi, presses him for an explanation. That is when Kyosuke opens up about his past. He talks about his childhood, when his mother suffered because of his father's constant infidelity. Eventually, she reached her limit and left the family behind. Before she walked away, she told Kyosuke not to grow up to be like his father, someone who could not love anyone sincerely. At the time, Kyosuke was too young to understand her words. After his mother left, another woman entered their home, his father's new partner. She was kind and tried her best to be a mother figure, but even she could not tolerate the uncertainty and emotional neglect from Kyosuke's father. She left as well. As Kyosuke grew older, he feared he might become just like his father, someone incapable of understanding real love. But when he met Sachi, who always expressed her feelings honestly, he finally began to feel what it meant to be loved wholeheartedly. Still, he misunderstood how to prove his love. He thought intimacy could show his sincerity, but instead he hurt Sachi, who wanted affection built on trust, not desire. From that moment on, Kyosuke begins to understand something painful about himself. He realizes he has never truly known how to love someone with sincerity. The guilt becomes overwhelming, and with a heavy heart, he asks Sachi to end their relationship. He admits he is not the good man she believes he is. His request to break up is not because he has found someone else he loves, but because he does not know how to love Sachi the right way. That is why he sought answers through someone else, hoping it would help him understand his own feelings. Hearing this shatters Sachi completely. She never imagined the person she trusted most would betray her. Sachi returns to her hometown carrying the heartbreak alone. She hides it from her friends, pretending everything is fine. But Makoto, one of her closest friends, senses something is wrong. Makoto has secretly cared about Sachi for a long time, and he immediately notices the change in her. When he learns she was cheated on, he gently encourages her to stop forcing herself to hold on. But Sachi refuses. She cannot imagine life without Kyosuke. The next day, Makoto tries to cheer her up, yet she remains quiet and distant. In the middle of their walk, Sachi suddenly freezes. Across the street, she sees Kyosuke. He has come all the way to meet her without warning because there's still something he needs to settle. He returns the cardigan she left behind and thanks her for staying by his side for so long. He does not want to push their relationship any further and believes she deserves someone who can make her happier than he ever could. What he does not expect is Sachi's response. She blames herself instead. She thinks all of this happened because she is not good enough, because she failed to be the ideal partner for him. If Kyosuke is willing to give her another chance, she promises to try even harder to understand him. In her mind, even after everything, she chooses to forgive him. She believes what happened with the other woman was not out of love, just a mistake caused by distance and loneliness. To her, this is simply part of the challenge of a long-distance relationship. She decides to stay and believes Kyosuke will eventually return to her. If he cannot love her properly now, she will be the one to teach him what real love feels like. Meanwhile, Shino has been sinking into loneliness since Kyosuke stopped visiting. She presses her ear against the wall, tapping lightly, hoping for a response from the room next door. But there is nothing. One day, Kyosuke finally returns, healthy enough to stand again. Shino feels relieved to see him, and she invites him inside. Instead, he stays at the doorway. He has come only to apologize and to tell her he cannot continue seeing her. He no longer wants to hurt the woman who truly loves him and accepts him despite all his flaws. Shino understands. She knew from the beginning that there was no real bond between them, and now that Kyosuke has a girlfriend who can fulfill him, she realizes she is no longer needed in his life. In another part of the city, Shino's husband learns that Kyosuke has cut ties with his wife. Instead of letting it go, he holds on to a quiet resentment. His name is Kaname, and he calls Shino to tell her his work is finished and that she should get ready to return to their main home. That night, as Kyosuke stands outside his apartment, he unexpectedly crosses paths with Shino and Kaname walking in together. Through the thin walls, Kyosuke later hears the married couple being intimate. The sounds bring back memories he has been trying to forget, reminding him of the mess he created. Meanwhile, Sachi's two friends notice something is wrong. She has been distant and unusually quiet, as if something heavy occupies her thoughts. Worried, Makoto sits down with her and gently tries to talk. He suggests that instead of hurting herself further, it might be better to end things with Kyosuke. But Sachi refuses. She insists she is fine with their situation because she believes Kyosuke did not cheat out of love, but out of confusion about his own feelings. Hearing that pushes Makoto to finally confess the truth he has kept buried. He admits he has real feelings for her, not because he expects her to return them, but because he wants her to see that there are people who care about her deeply. For so long, Sachi has believed Kyosuke is the only person she has. Without him, her life feels empty, and ever since she learned he cheated, the thought has haunted her every day. At the same time, Kyosuke is heading home from college when Kaname suddenly appears. Kaname has been waiting for him. He confronts Kyosuke with evidence, demanding compensation for the affair with his wife. Kyosuke, aware of his wrongdoing, apologizes desperately. But Kaname is not interested in apologies. He wants 2 million yen, a massive amount for a student with no job. He makes it clear there will be no forgiveness without payment. Shino has already moved back into the main house with her husband. Once she is there, Kaname turns his attention to her, pressuring her to admit the affair openly. She gives up trying to deny it and confesses, explaining that there was no love involved, only loneliness that she tried to fill. With the debt now placed on Kyosuke, he has no choice but to find a part-time job. He takes a position at a small restaurant, even though the pay is low, but he chooses not to tell Sachi. He does not want to worry her, even as the debt hangs over him. Because of the job, he stops replying to her messages, which only fuels her fear that he is cheating again. Eventually, she decides to visit Tokyo once more. Kyosuke meets her at the station, and she is thrilled to finally spend time with him again. But what he does not expect is to run into Shino and Kaname at the same cafe. Kaname deliberately sits right beside Kyosuke, trapping him in an awkward silence. Kyosuke becomes visibly nervous, unable to hide it. Sachi notices everything, and in that moment, all her suspicions lock into place. She realizes the woman Kyosuke cheated with was Shino. What hurts even more is remembering how, back at the hospital, Shino seemed to know exactly where Kyosuke kept his belongings. And the fact that Shino is married means Kyosuke was involved with a married woman. Sachi tries to hide her rising panic from Kyosuke, but inside, her heart is breaking all over again. When Kyosuke leaves for class, Sachi makes a difficult decision. She goes to see Shino, who is in her room packing to move out. With her voice shaking, Sachi asks how Shino could do something so cruel to the only boy she has ever loved. Shino knew Kyosuke already had a girlfriend. She also had a husband. Yet she still went through with it. Faced with Sachi's tears, Shino has no defense. All she can do is apologize and express regret for everything she has caused. She promises she will leave soon and stay out of Kyosuke's life. But to Sachi, it feels like Shino is simply running away after destroying someone else's world. Later that afternoon, after finishing his part-time shift, Kyosuke returns home to find Sachi looking nothing like her usual cheerful self. She seems distant, drained, and hurt. He has secretly been saving money from his job to buy her a necklace, a small gift meant to bring back her smile. But instead of happiness, Sachi suddenly tells him she wants to break up. Even though she loves him deeply, she cannot escape the reality that he chose to cheat with a married woman. Out of all the people he could have hurt, why did it have to be her? The doubt left behind by his betrayal has grown roots in her heart. She once believed forgiveness was possible if love was strong enough, but now she realizes that maybe she never should have forgiven him in the first place.
好きだから許せる人もいると。
She gently pulls her hand away and thanks him for the memories because, despite everything, she truly loved him. Then she walks away, leaving Kyosuke standing there in despair. For him, the regret is immediate and crushing. After the breakup, Kyosuke loses all motivation. He buries himself in part-time work, trying to numb the pain. His friends notice he looks exhausted and unwell, and only then do they learn he and Sachi are no longer together. Kyosuke works harder than ever, not only to pay off the compensation for the affair, but to drown out the thoughts of Sachi that haunt him. For someone who had just discovered what it felt like to be in love, losing her is unbearably painful. One night in his room, he opens a box filled with the letters Sachi sent him. He reads them slowly, realizing how much fear and worry she had carried inside. She had been suffering alone long before he ever noticed. Even though it might be too late, Kyosuke begins writing a letter back to her, driven by how much he misses her, by how empty the room feels without her presence. Meanwhile, Shino is tidying her husband's suit when she finds an envelope. Inside are the compensation papers and hidden photographs. She finally realizes her room had been bugged the entire time. Kaname had recorded everything. Shino cannot let Kyosuke carry all the blame, so she confronts her husband. She tells him she knows about the listening device and the demand for compensation. If his goal was to break their marriage apart, why involve someone who had nothing to do with their original problems? Only then does Kaname reveal what pushed him to such extremes. Before Kaname ever met Shino, he had dated several women. He was the type who cared too much, someone who gave everything to the person he loved. But that devotion came across as obsessive, and one by one, those women left him. After being abandoned repeatedly, Kaname grew afraid of expressing his true feelings. When he started dating Shino, everything felt normal at first. But after they married, Shino slowly stopped smiling. That change triggered the same fear in Kaname that had haunted him for years, the fear of being disliked or pushed away by the person he loved most. And when Shino suddenly said she wanted to rent an apartment on her own, his anxiety spiked. He panicked. Instead of talking to her, he made the worst choice possible. He installed a listening device, hoping to understand what she was thinking. What he did not realize was how different Shino saw the situation. She thought Kaname no longer cared, because he was always working, rarely home, and never stopped her from doing whatever she wanted. She mistook his distance for indifference. During this period of loneliness, Shino met Kyosuke, the young neighbor next door. She watched how lovingly he exchanged handwritten letters with his girlfriend, something rare in the modern world. It stirred a quiet envy inside her. She wondered why she could not have that kind of happiness. On one side, Shino hoped Kaname would love her more openly. On the other, Kaname held back because he feared that being too controlling would push her even farther away. Their problems came down to one thing: a painful lack of communication. Both were hurting, yet neither spoke up. Realizing how foolish and careless they had both been, they decided to start over and rebuild their relationship without breaking it apart. Meanwhile, Sachi has still not told her friends what happened in Tokyo. Makoto, who knows her better than anyone, notices that she has been forcing herself to smile. Eventually, Sachi admits that she and Kyosuke are no longer together. The heartbreak is heavy, but letting go finally eases the weight in her chest. She rereads the letter she wrote but never sent, filled with all the feelings she once hoped he would understand. With steady hands, she burns them one by one. She knows it will take time, but she is determined to let the memories fade until they hurt less. There is one letter she does send. In it, Sachi tells Kyosuke she is surrounded by people who care about her, that her life is still full of color. She ends the message by wishing him genuine happiness before saying goodbye. Reading that letter saddens Kyosuke, yet it also brings him peace. Sachi is moving forward. He just does not know if he can do the same. As for the compensation, Shino tries to persuade her husband to free Kyosuke from the burden. She feels responsible and believes she should share the blame. But Konami refuses to pretend nothing happened. Instead, he agrees to reduce the penalty by half. The original 2 million yen becomes 1 million, which Kyosuke must repay over 50 months. A long 4-year stretch. Konami thinks the process itself might help Kyosuke rebuild himself, correcting the mistakes that brought him here. Time moves on. Kyosuke finally graduates from college and lands a job at a publishing company. On this particular day, he visits Konami to hand over the very last payment, the 50th installment he has made over 4 long years. During those years, Kyosuke carried nothing but regret. He blamed himself for hurting Shino, disappointing Konami, and losing the girl who once loved him with her whole heart. Konami understands that he too made mistakes as a husband. In his own way, he was punished through Shino's affair, while Kyosuke paid through the compensation. Now, with the final payment made, the balance between them is settled. Kyosuke is finally free to move forward with his life. A few years later, Kyosuke attends the wedding of an old college friend. The event becomes a small reunion, bringing together classmates who have not seen each other in almost 8 years. Many of them are married now. Some even have children. But Kyosuke is still alone. As he prepares to leave, he unexpectedly sees Sachi walking by, her hand held by Makoto, who is now her husband. Sachi is pregnant, glowing with a happiness that once seemed impossible. Kyosuke feels a soft ache of nostalgia, but he chooses not to approach her. It is enough to know she is living a warm and peaceful life with someone who truly cherishes her. Determined to let go of the past, Kyosuke moves out of the apartment filled with memories. He settles into a new place, hoping for a clean start. While unpacking, he notices a young girl peeking in from the hallway. She follows him outside, chatting without hesitation. She is about 12 years old, cheerful and bold, and calls herself Na-chan. She finds Kyosuke fascinating and compliments him freely. Every time they cross paths, she calls him handsome uncle, something he finds amusing and harmless, assuming she is just like any other child. But Na-chan is more mature than she appears. She asks him to hold her hand, notices he is not married because he has no ring, and seems unusually interested in him. At home, she excitedly tells her mother about the cool new neighbor, and in an unexpected twist, her mother turns out to be Shino. Her father is Konami. The couple now lives quietly with their daughter, trying to build a healthier life. Shino still carries guilt for the past, but Konami reminds her to treat it as a lesson, not a wound. They never imagine that their daughter's harmless stories are actually about Kyosuke, the man once caught in the middle of their broken marriage. Just like her mother, Na-chan has a habit of listening through walls when she is curious. Sometimes she taps her fingers against the shared wall, trying to see if the neighbor will respond. One evening, Kyosuke hears a faint tapping from the other side. The sound feels strangely familiar. It pulls him back to memories from the old apartment, memories he thought he had left behind. Unsure if it is real or just his imagination, he gently taps back, wondering whether this wall marks a fresh start or the edge of yet another complicated chapter in his life. So the moral of the story is, sometimes love is not lost in one big moment, but in all the small hurts we ignore while hoping things will get better. And by the time we realize what we should have protected, the person who loved us the most has already learned to live without us.